everyone and welcome back to today's YouTube video. Today I'm going to show you how to paint a beautiful landscape. It's going to have some mountains, we're going to have a violet sky. It's going to look absolutely beautiful. This is also going to help you to unwind and relax. So I'm going to talk you through the colour mixing and then we're going to get going. But before I do, please make sure that if you are enjoying these videos, you're going to give me a subscribe and a like so I can help more people. Okay, let's get going. I'm going to mix all my own colours today. You can match them up if you like, but we're going to have a violet and we're going to have a green as well. So if you want to mix them along with me, you can. If not, match them up best of your ability. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a scoop of blue paint and we're going to match that up with 50% red. When you've got them colours, we're going to add some white. We want to add double the amount of white to the paint that we have, so make sure that you're doubling up on your white. Perfect, and when you've got that, give it a mix. The next colour we're going to mix is a green. We want to take a nice big scoop of yellow paint. Think of it as 70% yellow and 30% blue that we're going to mix. And then we're going to add a nice half scoop of blue there. Can you see? There's more yellow than blue. So we're going to give that a nice mix and get ourselves a nice green. I also want to create a yellow green. I want to create a really vibrant green. So a trick for this one is let's just take one scoop of that green right there and we're going to add a nice big scoop of yellow to that. Just like so. Brilliant, we're off to a great start. We've got our three colours ready to go. We can always mix in more colour as we go, so keep your primary colours handy and your white. And I'm going to run you through what brushes we're going to need and then we're going to switch off and get painting. The brushes I'm going to use today are a mop brush, a filbert brush, round brushes, and last but not least, we're going to use a fan brush. So the first thing you want to do is to take your mop brush and give it a little bit of a wet in some water. And then you're going to take a nice big scoop of white paint, just like so. With this white paint, I'd love you to start in the middle with that damp brush and brush it up and down, focusing on 1/3 of the canvas. You're going to take your brush as it is and you're going to add a little bit of our violet. Starting from the top, we're going to start painting our way into the white centre. And then we're going to repeat the same on the bottom, but working our way up. Now what I like to do is to take a dry brush and just fluff over that paint all the way from the top right to the bottom. Perfect, now it's time to add some mountains into our painting. So we have this violet colour here which I would love us to use, but what I'd like us to do is just take a little bit of blue paint and just mix some of that violet into that blue, creating a blue violet. Then with this blue violet, with a clean brush, I'd love you to take a scoop of white paint and just add a tiny amount of that colour. So the lighter colour is going to be for the mountains at the back, so we're going to start painting them in using our brush. Now I want you to find the halfway mark, and if you like you can even draw a line across so you know where to stop painting your mountains in. So now taking this paint, we're going to paint in some mountains in the background that are in the distance. So these are very much lighter than the ones that we have up close. And then we're just going to paint them shapes in. Now using the darker paint, we're going to probably cover up a lot of these mountains at the bottom, but we're going to create mountains that are closer. So using the blue-violet here, without the white added, I'm going to run my brush from the top all the way down like so. And we'll want to fill this space in. There we go. So we have some nice basic shapes for our mountains, but now let's bring these to life. At the back, we're going to use some white with a tiny bit of the lightest colour that we use for the mountains at the back. So it's virtually white. In using this paint, we're going to touch the left-hand side of each mountain, ensuring we're hitting the light spots to really bring these to shape. Now you can do this just by dancing your brush over, like so. Doesn't have to be perfect. We don't want to paint in the entire shape, just areas where it's a little bit lighter. And now we're going to add some light to the mountains in the front. So using the white and the blue-violet that we mixed for the mountains at the back, if you don't have any, just mix a little bit more. We're going to use this colour to now add light on the left-hand side of the mountains, starting with the middle. And again, just dance that brush over. There's no right or wrong. You can even draw an imaginary line where your mountain splits into two. Now I would like us to put some lights on the right hand side, but just ever so gently, not too many. Just a few here and there where you can see just a little tiny gap. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some darker areas to our mountains. So I'd like us to take a little bit of blue and just mix it into a little bit of that blue-violet that we've already got there. And we can use that for the dark areas at the front of the mountains. But now we're focusing more on the right hand side. Beautiful. So we've created ourselves some really nice mountains now, but we want this water to really stand out. So for the water to stand out, we really need to paint a really solid reflection in there. Now we can do this using the blue-violet, but what I'd like you to do is just add a couple of drops of water to your blue-violet and give it a bit of a mix. Now using this paint, we want to replicate the mountains above as best as we can, but because it's a reflection, this doesn't need to be straight, it can be a little bit blurry, so using horizontal motions is going to work in your favour. Okay, now we've got the mountains, it's time to add some green. So I'm going to take the first green that we mixed, and I'm just going to paint myself a little line where I want them trees to be. Again, don't worry if it's a bit wiggly, it's absolutely fine, we can always work on top. And I think it'll also be really nice to have some trees at the side and some grass. So I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to paint a little triangle shape here that leads down to the bottom. I'm just going to fill that in. Well, we also might have one at the other side, just leading down. And then at the bottom, I'm just going to run that green all the way round to the other side, like so. We're going to take our violet that we have mixed, we're going to add some blue into that violet. Again, creating a nice dark blue violet. And then we're going to use that paint just to go around and under any nice dark bits where the shadow would be. So what I'd like to do with a clean brush is I like to pull now this paint away. So the paint at the top there, I'm going to pull it down like so, all the way to the other end. Just give it a bit of a wipe on some kitchen roll, and just at the bottom half I'm just going to go and fluff my brush. Oh, a bit of green paint on there. Just going to fluff my brush left and right and just blur out some of them lines. We're still keeping some of them in. And this will work really nicely when we've got the trees on there, and we'll also do this again to create the reflection. With the dark blue at the left and the right, I'm just going to flick that out horizontally, just the very edge of it, into the water. I'm wiping my brush as I go over to the opposite side. Just flicking the edge of that paint horizontally, like so, into the water. And you might want to keep going with that, it can get addictive. Lovely. Perfect. And with a clean brush you can keep going and making sure that these harsh lines are blurred out a little bit if they're a little bit too harsh for you. So we'll start with the background. With the background, we're just going to use a small round brush. With the round brush, we're going to take some of the green paint on the very tip, and we're just going to tap our brush up and down, like so. This is going to create some trees in the background, and I want you to do that all the way across. Brilliant. So now we want to create a little bit of a reflection with these trees. So much like we did with the grass verge there, we're just going to take our brush into the base of the green and we're just going to pull it down. Then using a dry brush, a filbert brush is a good choice. I'm just going to go left and right just over the base of that drag. Lovely. Now it's time for grass and then some pine trees. So I'm going to take a fan brush, and this time I'm going to just take a little bit of blue paint, and this fan brush is nice and dry. I'm going to take some blue paint on my fan brush and I'm going to dip it into some of the green. Not the yellow green, the secondary green. I'm just going to mix that together so it's a little bit darker. You can also add a tot of red to this if you prefer. So using a fan brush, I'm now going to tap away my brush and create some grass. Now this green that we've mixed, I would like you to use this for the dark areas of where your grass is a little bit darker. So that might be at the edge here. So when we've got the dark green in, I'm now going to take the yellow green, the lightest green, I'm going to tap that everywhere the grass is lighter. There we go. You might even want a bit of yellow here and there. Again, it's up to you. You can just tap over your lightest areas and add some yellow. We're going to use the smallest round brush to create the base of the tree, the trunk. So I'm going to dip that in a little bit of water. Now, I'm going to use a nice dark green here. I'm just going to take that green and I'm going to add a little bit of red to the green. I want to create a bit of a brown colour, like so. And when you've got a little bit of a brown colour, you're going to use that to create how tall you want your tree to be and where you want it to sit, using that small round brush. So using the fan brush, try and give it a good dry if you can. Now we're going to use the edge of the fan brush first of all, using this darkest green paint. Can you see? Just on the edge. So using a bit of green paint on the edge of that brush, I'm just going to tap just above where I've left off with the trunk, and I'm going to go left and right ever so slightly at the top of the pine tree. And I'm just going to use a tapping motion as I move my wrist horizontally left and right. And as I get part way down, I'm now going to dip the full tip of the fan brush in the green paint, so that when I get further down, I'm going to incorporate more of the brush into the painting. And then I'm just going to go straight on the top with some yellow because I really want this to stand out now. I'm going to repeat the process. And you can always go back in with your green to separate the tree if you need to in areas. Perfect, so you can add more pine trees if you like, and you can make darker ones, lighter ones. But what I'm going to do now is just bring the water to life a little bit more. I'm going to take a little bit of white paint. And just with a tiny bit of white paint on my brush, I'm just going to wipe off any excess. I'm just going to go in the centre and guide my brush left to right, just creating a little bit of light. There we have it. a beautiful landscape. So there we have it, a beautiful landscape. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did enjoy it in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. If you love painting and it helped you switch off, I also have a membership. You can find all the details below. Why not come and join us and paint weekly?